Hello friends and fashion lovers, you're welcome back. I'm so excited to have you back. In today's tutorial, we'll be making this front button pinafore dress. Yes, the fabric you're looking at in front is a patchwork from my leftover fabric, and this dress is reversible. So I have button on both sides, and if you turn it over to the other side, the child can still wear it, and not just wearing it, it can be buttoned in front. It means that it's buttoned on both sides. The fun thing I like about this dress is that you get to use your leftover and any other fabric of your choice. Like in my case, I ended up using Ankara print for this side and also my leftover Ankara. So without much of talking, let's get right into the making of this dress. In case you are interested in how this patchwork was made, I cut a 4x4 inch square from my leftover fabric and I sewed them together to make this patchwork. So for the tutorial, you will need your pattern. I drafted this. You can check the description box to the link. You need 4 buttons and you need your print. You need both the print and your patchwork or any fabric of your choice, but you just need 2 fabric. Please note that my pattern will be cut on fold. So here I have placed my fabric on fold. So I'm going to quickly secure it in place. My pattern has no seaming allowance. I want you to remember that pattern has no seaming allowance. So firstly, I'm going to trace my actual seam line. Then just for visibility, I took it out. Then I'm adding my seaming allowance. I use 1/2 inch on the bottom and up on the neckline and the arm sky. Then 3/4 inch by the side. So whatever seaming allowance you're comfortable with, use that and be consistent. So I'm going to use the same technique and cut my back pattern and also on my patchwork fabric too. So here I have my fabric cut out using my pattern, both the Ankara fabric and my patchwork. So I have the placed right sides together. I'm going to quickly secure them in place. So it's important to make sure that you use the right seaming allowance and everything should try as much as possible to match. So now you're going to sew the arm sky and the neckline for both the front and the back of this dress. So after sewing, you have to notch, especially the curved lines, because if you don't notch, it will not lie properly. While notching, be careful not to cut the seam. When you're done, turn it right side out. When turning it right side out, remember to push and make sure that you have everything turned out properly. So in the quest of having everything turned out properly, you could get something to push out those corners, after which you press those fabrics. Just make sure everything is nice and even. After pressing this fabric, you can take to your sewing machine and you top stitch. This part is optional. You can top stitch later. After top stitching, now place right sides together just the same way the child would wear it. Open up the seam. Make sure that each fabric is facing each other, the print to the print, the patchwork to the patchwork. Make sure the arm sky seam, armhole seam matches perfectly. So you're going to secure it in place. So you're going to sew with your seaming allowance and make sure you leave about 4-inch opening while sewing. After that, you notch the armhole and press open the seam because you want it to lie flat. So here I've turned it right side out and it's all flat. Next is to grab my seaming allowance. I have a reversible dress tutorial, so just the same way you would tuck it in to make your seam. So you just pushed both the patchwork fabric in my case and the Ankara print, like you want to hem them together. Then you reach in from that opening and pull it out. When you pull it out, you start securing it in place. It won't look very right, but trust me, it's going to be okay after. You're going to look perfect after. After which you take to your sewing machine and you sew using your seaming allowance. So if this step is confusing, I have a tutorial on how to sew a reversible dress. You can hem the down part that way. After that, what you need to do is return, pull it out from that opening you left to get your right side out. So down here, you're just going to pull the seam, make sure everything is even, and you are going to press it. So you need to arrange it, roll out that hem nicely and press it because you want it lying as flat as possible. So you just keep pressing it all around. You might choose to top stitch it after pressing, but you need to have the hem out nicely. Another thing to do is to close that opening. So for me, I used an invisible seam to close the opening that was left. So just stitch as neatly as you can to close that seam. Next is to find the space for the buttonhole. I came down about 1 inch from my edge and mark where my buttonhole will sit. Then find the midpoint. So that will be where my buttonhole. So ensure that you do seam it is even on both sides. I'm going to use my buttonhole foot. I've noted the diameter of my button. Here I'm going to fix my foot, then make my buttonhole for this dress. So just follow the simple step 1, 2, 3, 4 on your machine if you are using this type. After which you open. Then to know how much fold over, I like to use my arm sky depth so that I know how much to fold over. Now that I've noted how much I should fold over using my arm sky measurement, so I'm just going to put my marker or my pen in that buttonhole spacing and trace it out. So that's where I'm going to fix my buttonhole. I'm going to start by fixing the first one. So I'm going to take a little bit of it, secure the first one, then now put the second one behind. So I'm using the same button, so if I pass it through the front hole, the back, it will go through the back hole. So I'm sewing the 2 buttons at once. So I don't know why I was out of focus, but I'm just sewing both buttons at once. So just pushing it, it passes through. So if you set it properly, you won't have any problem if you are using same buttons. So just ensure that your buttons are not too tight. You need to put your thumb in between. I guess you should know how to sew a button, so just make sure that you put your thumb in between because you want to easily pull this button. So don't make it extremely tight. It has to have a little bit of space so that you can button it easily. So now that my button is sewn, I'm just going to roll the thread around and tie it on one side. That's how I secure it. So just roll the thread around and tie it in between that space, then cut the thread out. So now the dress is ready. So you can go ahead and button on this other side like you would if the child is wearing the patchwork side. You can button it there for the child. If the child is wearing the other way, yes, the print, Ankara print, both of them are Ankara print anyway. So if the child is wearing the other way, you also have the option of moving your buttons to the front, or should I say moving your buttonhole to the front to suit the child's need. So I guess this is where I say thank you for watching. If you're here for the first time and you like the content, please subscribe. And don't forget, if you have any question, feel free to ask. I could make a video to explain, or I could answer your question right away. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this baby dress a nice press before my girl takes it away. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. See you in the next tutorial.